Scott.
I'm Sam.
And we're munching movies. Today we're munching an anime.
Yes.
Castlevania. Netflix.
Netflix original, yes.
Yeah. Honestly, when I heard about this, I kind of thought, like, didn't they already have a Castlevania anime? Which I think that they did have. But so I wasn't that enthusiastic about it because I think I'd originally watched a little bit of that. I could be mistaken. Maybe it was something else. But I just wasn't that attracted to it originally. It just recently came out, and when we turned it on, I was like, oh my gosh.
This
is amazing.
Hooked. Yes. And I usually don't like super gory animes like this, but this was amazing.
It's like Bram Stoker's Dracula goes like heavy metal the entire time. It's just like nuts, craziness. It's probably one of the most vicious and crazy interpretations of Dracula that I've ever seen. And I love the story. So we'll kind of go right into that. The story itself is interesting because it starts out with this girl, and she comes and finds Dracula and kind of not swoons him, but he sees her charm, and he doesn't...
She's different than most other humans, and of course he's always had a disdain for humans, but this woman who comes into his life manages to be like, hey, you know what, we're not all bad, maybe you can live, you can tolerate us now.
And she kind of sees the, good in him, too, because obviously she knows that he's an awful person. He has a castle, and in front of it, it's just people being impaled, and she's like, maybe I can get you to stop impaling people, and he's like, that was a while back, but it's like, wow. So she sees, the good in him, too, even though she knows that he's a messed up person, too. And so she's just trying to heal these wounds between Dracula and humanity, and the very next scene, you only get a few minutes of them, actually together, but it's really sweet in the sense of as much as you can do. The next scene, she's being burned at the stake by the church.
I was so mad. I was upset. And of course it's cliche to have the evil church doing their deeds, it's totally cliche, I get it, but I was still really mad. I was like, first of all, it looked like it really hurt, whoever the animators and the people are, they did a really good job of making it look like, oh my lord, I never want to be burned alive, ever. And you hear the priest guy and the townsfolk in the background saying, yes, she's really a witch, even though she claims that this is all just pure science, but she's full of crap, and so we had to burn her.
Yeah.
And then she, the gal, screaming to the sky, basically not really talking to anyone, saying, I don't know if you can hear me, but they know not what they do. Well, I know, but they don't know that, and we didn't know that. But anyway.
And he appears in a giant ball of flame as Dracula's face in flame, and they basically, the humans, the church and everyone there, basically says, we don't believe in you, and he's like, how dare you burn my wife at the stake, and then basically say that I don't exist, and I'm appearing to you right here in the flame, he curses them and says he's going to be back in a year, and if they don't change their ways repent to it, then he's going to murder everybody. Not just the people who did it, everybody. And they don't.
People don't. They still don't think it really happened. And I'm like...
Yeah. It's craziness. It's the... Dark Ages at its worst, if you really look at it. And no one's really a good guy at this point. Obviously, Dracula's being awful, and the church is even almost more so awful. And so you're like, where's the good guy? Trevor Belmont. He's not even a good guy. He's in a bar getting wasted, just trying to drink away his, troubles.
He's like the anti-hero.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero, He's, basically just trying to drink away his woes, and he gets thrown into this whole mess between the church and these basically speakers or seers. Seekers. And they're basically like mages or wizards.
Well, and this plays homage to the video game, because the video game is about the family Belmont, who are the vampire hunters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Trevor Belmont is the last son of the House of Belmont, and so all the hope is rested on this poor man.
And basically, the gist of where it kind of takes place, at least what they're trying to kind of mesh together, they're meshing together at least a lot of different games, but the main ones are probably Castlevania 3, and I think Symphony of the Night, because it has Trevor Belmont in it, which is the guy in Castlevania 3, and it has Alucard, who's from Symphony of the Night, and also I think Trevor Belmont's in there too. So it's really taking those two games and kind of mushing them together, but it's taking a lot from other things too. I even noticed that some of the sounds sound very similar to the games. Like maybe they've remastered it a bit, but the bat sounds really sound like almost straight from Super Castlevania 4. And there's a lot of really cool like homages to the game. I love how the castle comes out of the ground and it looks just like the castle from the original Castlevania. There's different sides to it and you can see more, but like the silhouette of it's very
iconic.
Iconic, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about a little bit about the voice actors, because obviously it is an anime, and so to me that's important that you have a good voice actor. Oh my gosh! Thorin from The Hobbit is Trevor Belmont. Very sexy voice. Perfect for that character, because Trevor reminds me, at least from his looks, he reminds me a lot of Jon Snow, but he has that snarky, like, Ranger-esque attitude towards him, and I think Richard Armitage did just a fabulous job. And as far as the voice for Dracula is actually Graham McTavish. He was also one of the dwarves in The Hobbit, and to me he's a fabulous actor as well. So I think they picked two really strong actors for those characters.
Yeah. Real quick on the characters, let's talk quickly about Trevor Belmont, the main mage lady. Oh, I don't know her name.
I totally forgot her name.
But the main mage lady, Dracula, and Alucard.
Okay, go ahead.
So Trevor Belmont, I really like him. Again, as the anti-hero and as having a personality. He has such a fun personality. I do feel like some of the lines, actually, speaking of the voice actors, were spoken a little too wispy, and so they're kind of hard to make out sometimes. But I like the acting overall.
I understood them just fine.
So I like Trevor Belmont. The mage lady, we don't really get to see her too much until the last episode when she starts showing her powers off.
She's she's a magic mage. Like she is a magician to the max.
Yeah, she helps Trevor out by covering him with a ring of fire at one point to separate from the townspeople who are going to murder him, and actually gets him to actually listen to what he has to say, and then turn on the church. She also helps him, sort of in Dracula's castle as they're now. Mostly it's him. But I like her as a character. Yeah. Dracula, like I said, I think he's the best reincarnation of Dracula that I've seen so far.
And he looks cool.
I love, in the Bram Stoker's novel, I like how they describe that Dracula. I like how he's sort of this almost mystical creature, and his castle is part of him too. Like, it's this haunted place where down any alley you could find some monster of the night, you know what I mean? And he really feels that way. He's almost like a presence, not really a human. You know, he appears in the clouds. He appears in a murder of crows flying around his castle. He appears coming from the sky. He bursts into flames and turns into a giant pillar of
He makes it rain blood, for crying out loud. Like,
blood and basically like demon fetuses. I don't know how else to describe it.
Gross.
He is the epitome of scary Dracula. Alucard, he's kind of a pretty boy, but you can definitely see that he has just as much power and just as much, like going
and
on.
that's Dracula's son, right?
Yes, that's Dracula's son. And the thing is, Trevor doesn't fret. They go toe to toe, him and Alucard.
He
and
opens
that
up a can of whoop-ass
fight scene is amazing. It's like
way awesome.
Dang.
And he is so good with the whip thing, because that's another thing in the games, you know? Mm-hmm. And he's just a master at that. Like, I'm sure Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones is jealous. Just saying.
So, score?
Honestly, even though it's only 4 episodes, I'm going to give it a 9.
See, and I think now these are both really good properties, so it's hard to say, but yeah, I would give it a 9 too. I'm normally not this, easy going with numbers. Usually I'm 9 or 8
we were
are
just
like really good.
Hooked. It just everything about it was just epic.
Yeah.
So
and I think that it's worth it. So yeah, definitely go watch it. 9. It's awesome.